Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're reacting to Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird. Who's the greater legend? I just watched the documentary, The Courtship of Rivals. It blew my mind. I'm Gen Z, if y'all don't know. Started watching ball in 2010, finally learning about legends of the past, and it's truly been a joy. Truly, man, it has made me a bigger lover of the NBA, which I didn't think was possible, man. I thought I loved the NBA till like its max capacity, and Larry, Magic, Jordan have all taught me otherwise. I'm also checking out Kareem, Shaq, all these greats from the past. So let's find out who the better legend. I don't know who I would go for here, because both of them have an extremely great argument, and both of their careers were kind of cut short for different reasons. So let's see what Johnny Arnett has to say about it, but I don't know who I would go for here.
In this Versus series, we take a look at two greats of basketball history as we analyze their skills, achievements, and career totals, ending with a conclusion on who is the greater basketball player overall. Today, our matchup is the man known for his magic on the court, Earvin Johnson, versus Larry legend, Larry Bird. Both legends spent the entirety of their career with one of the most prestigious franchises of NBA history. Magic played 13 seasons with the Los Angeles Lakers, and Bird played 13 seasons with the Boston Celtics. Magic was a 6'9" point guard who weighed around 215 pounds. Larry was a 6'9" small forward / power forward who weighed around 220 pounds. Two men who were each accredited with saving the NBA in the 1980s.
Thank you, guys.
Two men who each have an argument of being the greatest player of their era. We'll compare these two greats with 5 major categories, which sometimes vary in categories depending on positions and playstyles. In this video, for these two icons of basketball, the categories are scoring, facilitating, rebounding, defense, and accolades. First off, scoring. Magic Johnson was a much better scorer than people typically give him credit for, especially when you consider how he's one out of only 2 players to average over 10 assists per game for
Y'all see that?
Especially when you consider how he's
Look at that nutmeg.
one out of only 2 players to average over 10 assists per game for his career. Despite the fact that his #1 priority was usually to get his teammates going, he still managed to consistently get his, as he averaged 19.5 points per game over the course of his career.
It's not bad.
He was a great finisher around the rim, and he managed to get himself more clean looks than most, since the defense always had to be on their heels because of his ability to find the open man. This led him to be extremely efficient throughout his career, as he shot 52% from the field over his 13 seasons, which is almost unheard of by point guard standards. He also was a tremendous free throw shooter, hitting 84.8% of his attempts over his career, and even led the league in overall free throw percentage in 1989.
Wow.
Now Bird
See, I didn't know that about Magic. I knew he was an amazing playmaker. I knew he could score. I didn't know he was that efficient.
on the other hand, is immediately known for his scoring. He was also a 6'9" small forward with a high release point on his jumper, so contesting his shots was quite difficult. With his fantastic footwork, his underrated handles, his finesse around the basket, and lethal perimeter shooting, he averaged 24.3 points over the course of his career. He never led the league in scoring, but unlike Magic, he was right around the top of the list on several occasions. As far as perimeter scorers go, Bird has an argument for being the most efficient scorer in NBA history. He led the league in free throw percentage 4 times, and he also had 2 50-40-90 seasons in his career, which is the second most in NBA history. The only player with more 50-40-90 seasons was the Hall of Famer Steve Nash, but Nash was never close to being a near 30 points per game scorer like Larry was several seasons. So the fact that Bird was able to maintain that efficiency as a perimeter scorer and at such a high volume of shots is pretty much unprecedented. Magic gets some bonus points for being a capable and efficient scorer even while being an all-time leader in assists. But even with that being said, it's still not enough to close the gap between him and the all-around-the-court threat that is Larry Bird.
I agree.
Scoring goes to Larry Bird. Second up is facilitating. Now, I alluded to this in the previous topic, but Magic is arguably and probably considered by most as the greatest passer of all time. He has the highest assists per game average in NBA history at 11.2, and he led the league in assists 4 times. It's easy to simply look at the numbers and say that Magic was the best passer on his team, but he was so much more than just that. Magic was the engine that drove the Showtime Lakers' high-octane offense. Magic was obsessed with pushing the tempo nearly every time the Lakers gained possession, and it resulted in many easy buckets for his slashing teammates.
Showtime,
his
baby.
His ability to make smart split-second decisions is unmatched, and his court vision would have you swearing that he has eyes in the back of his head with the passes he was consistently making.
These are like Quick passes as well. Dang.
On top of all of that, he was a 6'9 point guard, so interfering with some of his higher passes was nearly impossible for many of his smaller defenders. Now, Bird was a much better distributor than most people realize. He started his career as a power forward, and if he had remained in that position, then he would probably be known today as the greatest passing power forward of all time. He shared a similar ability to Magic in terms of their incredible court vision, and he's been praised by Magic on numerous occasions for that exact skill. He averaged 6.3 assists on his career, averaging as high as 7.6 in 1987.
Dang.
He was usually not among the assist leaders of the league, but he was consistently among the leaders at his position. The same way Magic got bonus points in the scoring category, Bird also gets bonus points in the facilitating category, as it was remarkable that Bird assisted his teammates as often as he did, when you consider the fact that Bird chose to shoot the ball nearly 50% more often than Magic Johnson did.
True.
Still, unless you're a gold medalist in mental gymnastics, facilitating clearly has to go to Magic,
I agree
as
with
his
that.
incredible ability to make his teammates better is simply one of a kind.
I think this is so far it's an interesting matchup because scoring, you could argue if both of them wanted to, could have lead the league in scoring. They seem to have that efficiency and that ability to do so. Magic just chose to be a better passer. Same thing with Bird. If he decided to be a better passer because of his position, then maybe we'd be like, okay, Bird's a better passer. But I think both of them have the ability to, but we can't judge off of just straight the ability to. It has to be what you actually put out on the court. So I respect so far 1-1 each.
Third up is rebounding.
Rebounding!
Now this one can be a little bit tricky since I'm making the case for different positions.
Yeah.
One is typically more of a perimeter player, while the other plays more in the interior. And naturally, the advantage goes to the interior player where most rebounds are available, especially in an era like the 80s where less perimeter shots are taken. All things considered, Magic was a pretty good rebounder, especially by point guard standards. He successfully used his superior height and frame to his advantage over smaller guards, and he was often hungry to get the ball as quickly as possible so he could then push the fast break on offense. He averaged 7.2 rebounds over the course of his career,
Dude.
getting as high as 9.6 in
Oh,
1982.
what?
Now Larry Bird averaged
To get close to 10 as a point guard, I know Russell Westbrook did it, but you could debate some of the ethics behind that. But getting to 9.6 is crazy, dude.
10 rebounds per game over his career, getting as high as 11 in 1983.
That's crazy
One
as well.
thing no one ever questioned about Bird back then was his hustle and heart. It was common for him to play the game with a physical and tenacious approach, and doing so continuously with 100% effort. These are qualities that naturally benefit a player's ability to secure the boards. This has resulted in Bird having the 50th highest rebounds per game average in NBA history. Most of the players on that list are either primarily power forwards or centers though,
Right.
which Larry was not. He played mostly as a small forward. Among primary small forwards, Larry has the third greatest rebounds per game average in NBA history. When you consider the positions, this one is extremely close. But for me, the slight edge goes to Larry Bird. Not just
Okay.
because of his higher numbers, but it's about how he played to get those numbers, as Bird was known for a more grit and grind type approach, which
like
is a
that.
great quality when you're banging for the boards in the 80s. Fourth on the list,
Look, man, what Magic did at his position with rebounding, I think should be applauded. But I agree with Bird's like higher hustle and heart. I feel like that's a lot of rebounding. You know, that's what Dennis Rodman kind of showed us, and what he's been teaching me on the Last Dance documentary, which has been really dope. But okay, I think rebounding is closer than it might be, like than other people might think. But I'll give it to Bird.
is defense. Magic was never considered as an elite defender, as he didn't make any all-defense teams in his career, but he
Dang.
was certainly a capable one.
I didn't know
his
that.
sheer size made it somewhat difficult for opposing guards to score over him or to get into a favorable position with physicality. Magic had a high top speed that he always used on offense, but his lateral movement wasn't the quickest on defense, which made it sometimes difficult for him to stay in front of the quicker, smaller guards. His hands were decently quick, and he was pretty good at jumping the passing lanes, which resulted in him leading the league in steals twice,
Nice.
including the 1981 season, where he averaged an incredibly strong 3.4 steals per game. He also averaged 1.9 steals over the course of his career, although he didn't have a strong vertical leap and was never a good shot blocker, as he only averaged 0.4 blocks over his career and never averaged at least one per game in a season,
See, that's surprising because of how big he is.
which is pretty surprising considering his height and length advantage advantage over almost every opposing guard.
Johnny and I are the same wavelength.
Larry was known to be slow, and he wasn't the most quick or athletically gifted player, but I do think he's somewhat of an underrated defender compared to how he's perceived by the general public. The Boston Celtics were a consistently elite defensive team, and Bird's high basketball IQ was a significant help in that area. Bird made 3 all-defense teams and averaged 1.7 steals and 0.8 blocks over his 13 seasons.
That's the hustle right
Bird
there.
could be a bit of a pest on defense, as his effort and tenacious attitude was never lacking.
Yeah.
Due to his slower and less athletic frame, it wasn't uncommon for him to need help defensively if he was guarding some of the athletic and talented wings in the league, like Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins, for example. With that being said, Bird was good at communicating with his teammates, trapping offensive players and forcing turnovers as a result. This one is somewhat close, but at the end of the day, Bird has the slightly better individual defensive numbers, he's the more accomplished defensive player, and he was the team leader of the consistently better defensive team throughout the decade.
I agree with that.
Defense goes to Larry Bird.
Okay, Bird.
Last on the list of categories is accolades, and both of these legends had a ton of them. Magic Johnson won 5 NBA championships, 3 Finals MVPs, and he won 3 League MVPs. He made 12 All-Star teams and 10 All-NBA teams.
Dang.
He was a 4-time assist champion and a 2-time steals champion. In his 13 seasons, he averaged 19.5 points, 7.2 rebounds, 11.2 assists, 1.9 steals, and 0.4 blocks on 61 true shooting percentage.
61 is crazy, bro.
Larry Bird won 3 NBA championships, 2 Finals MVPs, and 3 League MVPs. He made 12 All-Star teams, 10 All-NBA teams, and 3 All-Defense teams.
Man.
He was also the 1980 Rookie of the Year and was a 2-time 50-40-90 player.
Dang.
In his 13 seasons, he averaged 24.3 points, 10 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 1.7 steals, and 0.8 blocks on 56.4 true shooting percentage. Based on this list, 0.8 blocks on 56.4 true shooting percentage. Based on this list, I think Magic has the slight advantage on accolades.
I agree.
Now, as far as how
But if Bird had Kareem, would it have been different? I don't know. Swap Parrish and Kareem and tell me what happens.
these players compare as a whole, as usual, it's extremely close. And the only reason I'm picking between these two is because I have to for the sake of the series. But for myself personally, Larry Bird is the more complete player and ranks higher on my all-time list.
Fair enough.
I think most of the time, people rank Magic slightly higher because of his edge in championships over Bird. But you have to also consider that basketball is a team sport, and although both legends were blessed with a tremendous supporting cast, also keep in mind that the East was definitely the stronger conference throughout the 80s, which meant it was even more difficult for the Celtics to get to the NBA Finals in the first place. Although I do think Bird is the slightly better and more complete individual player, I do think there is a strong argument for Magic. But I think that argument goes beyond the stat sheet and leans more into the narrative that no one has ever made their teammates better than Magic Johnson did, which
Fair.
is probably true, and if that's enough for him to be your choice, then I respect that. Let me know in the comments section who's higher on your list, Magic Johnson or Larry Bird. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more.
Dang, man. Ooh, what are the comments saying? Do y'all vote? Did y'all vote? I don't know, man. I don't know that we necessarily need to come up with a conclusion. I do agree. I think Bird is the more complete player. But Magic won more. And in their head-to-head matchups, Magic beat him 2-1. But it is a team sport. Could you argue Bird was the better player, Magic had the better team? I don't know. Could you also argue Magic made that team better with his playmaking abilities, and they wouldn't have been nearly as good? Like if you just straight up swap Bird and Magic, that's probably the only way to truly determine who's better all time, is if you swap their teams and have each one of them play for each other's teams and see who does better in that. But anyway, man, I'm really loving these Magic and Larry Bird comparisons. It's the greatest rivalry of all time in NBA history. I don't know who could really compare to it. The second best rivalry we made, maybe, is like Shaq and Kobe. I'm kidding. They were teammates, but they definitely were rivals at the same time. Steph and LeBron could be up there. Maybe like Tim Duncan and Kobe, or like Tim Duncan and Shaq. I don't know, man. But let me know what y'all think. Are you in the Magic Johnson camp? Are you in the Larry Bird camp? Are you in neither camp and be like, let's disrespect both of them? Curious what y'all have to say. As a more complete basketball player, though, I might have to give Larry the edge. Because even in the Court of Rivals documentary, Magic admitted that they weren't mentally as aggressive as the Celtics in that first finals run, and they had to get better. So seems like Larry came in with that mentality, and Magic had to learn it. But either way, dude, both are all-time legends. Both are maybe in my top 5 all-time. Still got to check out some more legends. Like, I know like the Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain are in a lot of people's top 10s, but I don't know anything about them. So I'm going to have to check out that rivalry as well. That might be another top rivalry. But thanks everybody for watching. Hope you have a great day, night, whatever time of day it is for you. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Deuces!